Hey everybody, it's your old pal Chuck, and I'm back with another review. And today we're taking a look at from the Transformers Studio Series. This is Transformers Bumblebee the Movie Ratchet. Studio Series number 82. 82. Good year. That was 40 years ago, folks. We got the 40th anniversary of G.I. Joe and He-Man. But we're talking about Transformers, which are now 2 years away from their 40th anniversary. So here we have Ratchet. This is its Cybertronian vehicle mode. Now, this figure is taken from the opening battle sequence from the Bumblebee movie. And what's interesting is, whereas Ratchet did not have a vehicle mode that we saw in the film, and the animators didn't create one, there was a robot mode. So Hasbro took that robot mode and retro created a vehicle mode. And I have to say, this is one of the most enjoyable Studio Series figures I've ever transformed. It's not that difficult, but there is some fun steps. Now, there are three things I want to point out before we get to the main review. Number one, this is a very small figure. I mean, the box is even smaller than the B182, the Cybertronian Bumblebee figure. I guess this is part of their commitment to reduce the packaging, which brings me to, also there's no plastic tray, but there's a fake backdrop in front of the real backdrop that the figure is plastic tied to. So that's number one. Number two, some of the joints on this figure are just that side of being loose. I mean, they're right on that border. If they were any looser, it would have some issues here. But the figure can stand, it can move, but it's just that when transforming, you might have a little case of flop if your figure is as loose as mine. And number three, as some of you might know, there have been reports of this figure abnormally yellowing very quickly, like within a day or two of being purchased. And this is not from being put in a window, on a windowsill. This is from people just opening the figure out of the box, transforming it, putting it on a shelf, nowhere near the sunlight or whatever, and things discolor. Now, I got this figure from Amazon. As far as I know, it's in stock now. And as soon as I got it out of the box, and I'll point it out in robot mode, I did notice a part of its hip was discolored. Could be my eyes, could just be how it looks, or it could be something else. So just something to be aware of. We're starting off in vehicle mode. Very nice. The figure rolls quite nicely. I guess you can say this is a Cybertronian ambulance. By this point, we all know that, and we have already been able to pre-order the repaint with a new head of this figure into Ironhide. Ratchet comes with this really nice Cybertronian blaster. I really need to see the Bumblebee movie because this weapon looks really cool. And it can store here on the top, and I don't really mind because it's the Cybertronian mode. It's a war mode. Should have exposed weapons. So we'll just put that off to the side. Other than that, not much to say. So let's pause, and we'll come back and get into the transformation. Okay, I've gone ahead and adjusted the camera slightly. Hopefully, I don't have to adjust it further. But we're going to go from vehicle to robot. First thing you want to do is come underneath here, lift up these parts. These are the arms. They peg into the top of the foot right there. Next, what you want to do is come into the side here and pop these panels open. On mine, they do stay very securely, very nice. I appreciate that. And then what you want to do is open up this whole back section, continue to fold it out, just like so. You might notice the shoulders will rotate. That's fine. Just open it up, and then you can flatten out these panels here. They might flatten on their own just from you handling it. It happens. The next step you want to do is come into the front of the vehicle, pop up this panel, and then carefully unpeg the front of the vehicle from what will be the legs. This is all clear plastic. I think this part is solid, but this is all clear plastic. So just go ahead and get that out of the way. And we're going to come in now and start working on the legs. What you can do is straighten them out. And here is what I was talking about with the discoloration. You can see from one side to another. This is a little more tan, not yellow, but just discolored, and it came out of the box like that. So yeah, that is something. With these side wheels, go ahead and you want to rotate them up. On mine, only one kind of clicks into place. So you use the one it's this one, so use that as a guide to figure out where to stop. You want to make sure you have an even movement. Come in underneath, flip the feet out from behind, straighten the legs out, and then rotate this down. Now make sure when going back into vehicle mode, you rotate only at this gray hinge and not at the waist. Go ahead, rotate the legs around, and what's really nice is you do see some of the sculpted, molded in detail right there, and it lines up so you get a nice stance right there. Really does help, even things out. Adjusted the camera a little. So if you notice, the hips are a little loose, but that's because I have all this weight back up here. So bring this forward. What you're going to do now is take this back panel, flip it up, and flip it down and around so Ratchet's head pops up. And what we can do now is collapse, bring these panels back to the side. There is a tab here on the waist section that's going to peg into the front of the chest, what is now the chest piece, so right there at the waist. This flap is going to go right back over like so. And then here on the back, you'll notice two posts on the door here. This will peg into the back section, helping to secure the arms into place, and that will hold. I just got to adjust the camera a little bit more. Just a touch, 2 hairs and some air. There we go. And then finally, use these little notches. The fists will snap into place as you flip them out. And there we have Ratchet in its robot mode. Now, one thing I'm going to put his gun in his hand real quick, because there's one thing I want to point out. And this is something I only noticed the other day. Because of the hinges here, his arm, when it's held upright, has a tendency to be off center. It's just one of, you can, for dynamic posing, it's really not noticeable. But just doing the whole straight firing, you can, correct it a little, bend the elbow, bring the arm down. But yeah, that is a little something that's a little annoying. There is weapon storage in robot mode. You can come around here. As you notice on the back of this door panel, side panel, there's a tab, and that will just allow you. There's a slot, and there's a tab on the gun. And there you go. So, universal joints here in the arm, 90-degree bend at the elbow, swivel. I guess you can say you have some wrist articulation just by folding it in and out. Universal joint at the hip, knee bend, nice little bit of ankle articulation here. You can little pivot. You do have the swiveling as I showed you before. Again, it's like there's that. I'm not sure if it's coming up on camera, but that discoloration is there. But like I mentioned, the hips are a little loose. The arms are a little loose, but they're holding. The head, very nice, expressive ball joint. Basically, the head is attached to the ball joint. The ball joint pegs into that panel, so you get some movement, and you have some nice light piping. It's hard to come up on camera, but it's the same clear blue plastic in the head that's on the chest. So, like I said, this is one of the most enjoyable Studio Series figures I've had the pleasure of transforming. It wasn't complicated. It wasn't an explosion of parts that I didn't recognize. Legs look like legs, arms look like arms. Now, I know there are some people don't like the Bumblebee movie aesthetic because it's too G1, whereas There are some people who prefer and those people prefer the Michael Bay aesthetic. I get it. This is what I dig, and it's me. I very rarely review the Studio Series toys, straight Studio Series, just because I don't like those designs and the figures are very complicated. So let's pause. We'll come back with my final thoughts. I don't have a lot of negative things to say about Ratchet. Any of the issues I have could be exclusively in the domain of my copy of this figure, and your mileage may vary. Like I said towards the end there, I know some people, the Bumblebee movie designs aren't your cup of tea. And with that, I think, if you want a Ratchet figure, there's plenty of other options. Um, but for me, I think this figure is fantastic. I love the use of the clear blue, even though, again, be very careful with clear plastic. It's not a question of if, but when it will break. I do appreciate the design. And this actually looks a little bit more like like that Neo G1 style that lines up more with classics, and not even like 2.0, not even the newer generation Ratchet or the War for Cybertron Ratchet. This actually fits more in, if you remember the video game figures we got from the War for Cybertron series. This looks more like a Ratchet from that series. And I really enjoy it. Once you do the transformation a couple times, it's like second nature. I like how the legs come together. I really appreciate how everything pegs together in both robot and vehicle mode. It comes together tightly and soundly. Again, stuff like that really makes me happy, as we'll see in like some other figures. Unfortunately, that's not across this entire wave. As I mentioned in the beginning, I got this figure from Amazon, but it should be. I have heard it's hitting brick and mortar retail as we speak, as well as other online retailers. So that's about it for the review. If you like this review, please consider liking, commenting, and subscribing. Doing all that helps to send messages to YouTube's algorithm to promote my channel. And if you want to make the ultimate sign of support, I do have a Patreon. It is www.patreon.com/chuckdog1999. All I ask for is $1 a month or $12 a year. But as I always say, if you can't swing the $1 a month or $12 a year, your views are more than thanks enough. There's a card here in the corner and a hyperlink in the description below if you want to look a little more into my Patreon. That's about it. This is your old pal Chuck for Bumblebee Ratchet. I just smack with my hand. We will see you next time.